Hail, Internet! It's Paul, it's Matt, the Dork Lords. We are here today talking about the Lazarus Project, Season 2, Episode 3. We open with a flashback to April 2024. We see Bryson introduced as Janet's guard/minder. He's going to escort her back to 2012 to assist Dr. Gray in fixing the black hole problem. They successfully go back in time. Janet reunites with her daughter, Becky, and all three of them take a photo to show they survived the journey. We end with the Lazarus team attempting to travel back in time using a plane as a DeLorean stand-in. One thing I wasn't sure of, are they journeying back to 2012, or are they just going back to, say, April of 2024 before Janet was kidnapped? I'm not sure. Anyway, I couldn't tell. I originally thought they were going to 2012, but now I'm wondering, like, well, maybe they were just going to try to keep Janet from being kidnapped. But in any case,
no,
we're going back
I don't
in time.
think so. Yes.
Okay.
I would assume they're going back to the time when they went back, so like a month before, whatever they said, a couple of weeks or whatever before.
Yeah, okay.
They got back there.
Okay. The Dane, we don't talk about it a lot, but he's piloting the plane, and he puts it into a nosedive, and we'll talk about why that is. But just off the cuff, I think he's trying to crash the plane. But everyone goes into 0G. No one's wearing a seatbelt. I'm like, come on, guys. No pre-flight safety instructions. There's a bright light. It appears that they're going back in time, and George realizes that if they die in the plane crash, they die for good, which is like, welcome to my world, George. But all that said, Paul.
Yes.
What'd you think of Season 2, Episode 3?
I enjoyed it because I think they still, the most paramount thing is the characters. So that's good. Yeah, but at least a few times, I'm not 100% positive that that's when they're going back in time and the actions that they're going to take and what that's going to clear up. And I think that's part of the reason why, if I understand you correctly, why you're always like, time travel.
Right.
Because one thing that George says is that this will negate, the events of me shooting you. And so, we'll just be mates again. And of course, I love his saying we were never mates. We were never
that's
friends.
Okay. If you want to talk about that, yeah. So George is wondering whether Shiv would remember being shot because that's pre-loop. But he's wondering, I think, whether Shiv will remember making amends with George post-shooting.
No. I think that he's also assuming that that's going to eliminate that whole loop. Because the reason why that loop is occurring is because the bad thing happened. And so I think they're trying to get rid of that bad thing.
But the fact is, the shooting itself was not in the loop. The shooting happens just before the loop.
Correct. But you can, it won't be the millions of times that he's killed him, I guess. Yeah, who knows? It's like weird. It shouldn't be. He should always have a memory of it, you would think. So, yeah, I don't know.
I would think he would have a memory of all the loops anyway. He remembers the loops.
Right. Yeah,
why would it be that this particular time, maybe it's because there's two black holes. I don't know.
Yeah, but thankfully, in George's defense, he said he hates it. He's always getting confused about it.
Yeah.
So, the fact that we're confused about it.
Very carefully here.
Yeah.
But my understanding of that was he's concerned that Shiv will only remember being shot and won't remember that George was trying to save him, and they became somewhat friendly over the course of this time.
No. Okay. He's still conveniently forgetting that none of them approve of him saving his girlfriend.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. By causing the time to be reset and shooting. Shooting Shiv repeatedly. In fact, not just the same time over and over again.
No.
He shot him before that.
Yes,
as well.
It's true.
I was wondering where I'd seen the actor who plays Bryson. I was like, I had to look it up. Season 1 of Witcher. He was actually a pretty major character in that. Anyway, that's where I remember seeing him from. So, Witcher guy showing up.
Okay.
Okay. I know that to you. That's like
good for him. Good for him.
Good for him. He had some work.
Yeah.
Season 1, we had the kind of darkly comedic montage of George continually trying to dispose of a body.
Yes.
This time we get the darkly comedic
Yeah.
cut guy's hand off to get through security,
Yes.
only to realize it's a retinal scanner, and they're like,
Yeah.
oh, okay, we gotta go cut his eye out next time. Like, oh man.
Yes.
And that's pretty gross. They do the gross version of that. Which is like, oof. Something about the way that, what's that guy? Is it Lerner? Is that the guy's name?
Robin Lerner.
Okay. We see him in the very beginning in this like flashback thing. It's the way he talks and reacts to Bryson.
Yes.
First he says,
right.
like, I know you will do me proud.
Yep.
And then he puts his hand on Bryson's shoulder when he's in the time capsule. It's just something he obviously has affection for this guy over and above,
Sure.
he's just an employee.
Yeah,
so I'm just wondering, are they related, maybe?
Yeah, because, well, you know, there was that telling, like, hey, we were in, you know, Janet says that you were in the service and you decided that you wanted to be a fuckboy or whatever. And he's like, something like that. So, you know, it's real telling that he didn't actually confirm that. He just, you know, so there's some motivation for him doing what he's doing that we don't know about. And, you know, I mean, you know, it's clear, too, that we've got revelations ahead with Ross and Janet's death, because we haven't seen it. All we've heard is accounts. So, you know, that
Janet didn't make it back for somehow, whatever.
Yeah, but, you know,
so
we didn't see the event of Ross killing her. It's first like, you know, okay, Ross got a mysterious burn, and then, you know...
Oh, wait, now, okay, see, this is probably going to come up a lot as we get through this season, but my interpretation was that Ross killed Dr. Gray, which is why they had to bring Janet back. So Janet came after that, maybe.
Well, I mean, during that, where the burn happened, I mean, I think...
Isn't that pre-Janet? That's why, or maybe I'm wrong. I could be wrong.
Right.
Maybe
no, I'm just talking about Becky saying that the last time she saw her mother was Ross. She was begging Ross not to kill Becky. So whenever that happened.
Yeah. Okay. Good point. Plus, we do see there was a flashback, I think, in the last episode where Janet meets up with Dr. Gray in the past.
Right.
So that would mean that she was there while Dr. Gray was still alive. All right. Maybe I'm wrong. Okay. But yes, it's fairly. We do have it pretty much confirmed that without 100%, but Wes ordered Ross, who is Archie's now deceased former love interest, to murder Dr. Gray and perhaps Janet in order to sabotage the time travel experiments.
Yeah.
Also, Wes doesn't seem thrilled when Reberoff finds the time travel notes that Janet hid back in 2012. I
didn't get that.
If you just watch her reaction, she's like, "Oh, where did you find this?" But like, it's not like a "Whoa, wee." I mean, I don't know. She's kind of like, "I thought I had gotten rid of this, and now it's here." Is kind of what I think out of it.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it was clear the plan should be to recreate a time machine, and so. You know, that's the only way of getting out of that situation. So
I'm confused, right? Yeah, you're right that they're only.
She may have been like, "It's great that we have this. I'm going to put it in this box over here that I only have the key to."
Because we then see Wes talking, as we find out when they kind of pan out. The room only has the Dane in it, and she's talking to Dane about Joseph Conrad's Heart of Darkness, and she's like. Basically saying that, you know, the journey ended in death. Then we see Dane take the plane into a dive.
Yeah.
I feel like Wes was basically saying, like, instructing him to sabotage this trip back. And so if she's sabotaging the plan, she must have another plan in place, because this seems like, as you pointed out, the best way to save, you know, to stop the time travel device and save the universe. Is to go back and stop all. But so why would she be sabotaging the very mission that would accomplish the goal? I think there's some important info we're lacking in this.
I think so. I mean, yeah, I feel like you're constantly imagining that Wes wants to destroy more than I think she does.
Okay.
It's like wait a minute, she is.
My chips are in on Wes. Is our obstacle. Wes is.
I'm not saying she's not an obstacle. It's just like, she doesn't want to. I think you're imagining more of an obstacle than I am. That's all. Okay. It's like, where it's like she wants to stop the what?
Would you agree that she ordered Ross to kill Dr. Gray?
Oh, probably. I think it's. Okay. I think they've left enough room for it not to be the case, but she probably did.
Okay, so if that's the case, then that pretty much.
Yeah, but look, I think you could say that. You could say, like, okay, they've got a situation where they can only go back, a year, and that's fine. And Dr. Kitty Gray's work was creating this, we can just travel back to wherever we want.
Yep.
You could say that that's her thing, and so that West doesn't like that, you could say that. And so, this, in order to, using the time thing to go back to stop the two singularities, she's fine with. And then she'll probably act from there to make sure that, I think you'd say to make sure that, okay, now no more time traveling that way. We can only time travel a year back to the old way. I think you could come up with that rather than, I just want to end all time travel. Well, clearly she's not in favor of ending all time travel,
Yeah.
So,
maybe she's like, look, there's time travel the natural way.
Yeah, or there's this time travel that she sanctions.
Or right, that she sanctions maybe. Yeah, she's like, look, I don't trust anyone else with this power.
Yeah.
Anyway, I think there's a shoe to drop there, and I'm still confused as to her motivation because it seems like
we don't have enough information yet.
Stop time travel would be go back and thwart.
Because for me, I have no clue at all about what George is going to do that will make Bryson want to kill him.
Yeah.
And so of course we don't have any because it hasn't even happened yet. But it'll probably be something.
I could imagine him doing something, right? I mean, he's already done so many things that would warrant somebody being really upset with him.
Yes.
Was it? Oh, so we have a ticking clock now. This is not a every 3 weeks we reset for eternity.
It's interesting. We were discussing last time that there was no ticking clock, and in this episode they introduced one.
Yeah.
So it was really out of their ignorance that they weren't aware of it, and they wanted to behave, the main actors or the characters to behave in a way that didn't suggest that. And then they started ticking it in this episode.
So it's So the 3-week time loop is now 8 seconds shorter.
Yes.
And the implication is it's going to continually get shorter. Now here's a question I've got.
Sure.
I'll guess that the 8 seconds is coming off of the end of the loop. But if there were a few seconds shaved off of the beginning of the loop, you would perhaps get far enough back that they wouldn't have to shoot. George wouldn't shoot Shiv, and you wouldn't have to shoot the neighbor anymore because it's only a few seconds. All they'd have to do is get a few seconds extra, and then George could change his mind and be like, "Okay, I'm not going to shoot you. Hold on. There's a lot that's happened." And of course, Shiv would probably know already all that info, so he'd be
no. If you saved it after the shot. Right? That's what you're suggesting? Like, at some point when he's running to get hit Reggie. Is that what you're suggesting?
I'm suggesting that
because really, one of the things that they can't do is stop him from shooting Shiv. And if you go after that, it doesn't change that.
Right. And that particular, the beginning of the time loop is pretty much set in stone because that's their time. That's the Lazarus Project's time shift.
Sure.
As opposed to the end of the time loop, which is this other thing, and that's probably what's shrinking. Okay. I'm just saying it would be interesting if you could shrink it down from the beginning, and then you'd be like, "Oh, great! I don't have to go through this killing my neighbor and you, Shiv, time after time."
But I don't think there's a way around that. I don't think there's a way around that.
So it's good that so they're like, okay, this isn't infinite. Literally, the universe will collapse in on itself. I guess that's the implication.
Presumably.
It's almost not even worth bringing up, but I've thought about it, so I'll bring it up. There does seem to be at times a bit of sameness in some of the conversations. The nearest analog I can think of is, let's say, West Wing, which is a quality show.
Sure.
And the similarity here is only tangential, but in the West Wing, Aaron Sorkin's dialogue and his style meant that everyone spoke in this unnaturally fast rhythm.
Sure.
And everyone could spitfire facts at like super computer speeds.
Sure.
And so there wasn't like a character that was like, slow down, let's think this through. Like everyone, it sounded like everyone had the same writer's voice. You know, like one voice was coming through a bunch of characters. And here we get a similar sameness in that the sameness is in like the sarcasm and aloofness in the face of, say, grave danger. We get Janet is sarcastic with Bryson in the beginning when she's like, oh, you know what, and if you try to use my daughter against me, I'll kill you in your sleep. Archie is sarcastic with Shang. George is sarcastic with Becky when he's like, what, you're an 18-year-old with a gun, maybe you just stay hanging out here. It's enjoyable to listen to. I enjoy the dialogue, but it does sound like the same writer's voice is coming out of different mouths, as opposed to the characters having their own personality, different ways of coping.
I guess. Yeah, I mean, I guess you could say in both instances, right, that in order to be on the West Wing in those job positions, you always need to know what the talking points are.
Right.
You know, talking points is a definite thing on the Beltway, to the point where there's a website called Talking Points Memo. So if you're, and one thing they talked about on the show is if you're on that level, you can rattle off these facts. So
and so to be in the Lazarus Project,
certainly that, that's right. In order to get through everything. You could argue though that you want to have more of a variety in their coping strategies. I think like the Dane isn't as as quippy as he could be. Maybe Greta is, because she's like, oh, you were trying to, you want a gun too? Oh, I don't trust you.
Now that said, I mean, my favorite scene of this episode was, I thought, some really solid acting, and that was Reborov reuniting with his daughter.
Yeah.
I thought that scene rang true, and that actor who plays Reborov, I thought he really sold that scene.
Although it was irritating to me, though, that it was precipitated by him finding out about Zhang and then going in there, and it's like, oh my gosh, you've got no presence of self to be like, is this the best thing to do? And it's just going to be undone the next time there's a loop. So what the fuck are you doing?
Great point. Also, the fact that there were seemingly no repercussions for him doing that. Like, in the middle of the Lazarus Project, he holds a knife to Zhang's throat.
You could argue that it's the least terrible thing that he's done.
That's true. But
it's like, hey, he found the scientist instead of, hanging himself, so it's all good. Whatever he decides to do now.
Right. He's the guy who saved Samson, so you can do whatever you want now.
It's all, we're all friends again.
But that said, you're right. That scene was a little questionable. But the follow-up scene, great.
Yes, I agree. That was
Becky
good.
Reborov.
Yeah, and it was interesting, too, how they reestablished the relationship with those two, where he's like, no, you're not going to go along. You're going to stay here. And you can see that it was reestablishing their relationship in that way, too.
So I thought that was really good. That actor,
yes,
he's maybe even a little underutilized, frankly. I could see a little, lean into Reborov a little more, because I do feel like that actor has a lot to bring to the role.
Well, I certainly was thinking that because he had such a small part to play in that episode where he finds the guy, because it's sort of like, whoa, I could just go there, and it was like he comes in and just shoots all these guys and everything. It's like, oh, Reborov, okay, he's
also, you're right. Not only is he a good actor, his character happens to be by far the most competent. So, don't put him in the show. He's a plot killer. He just
you think Wes would have been like, are you sure we can't get him back on our side? He's just kicking our asses left and right.
Exactly. He is on that plane, so he'll be journeying back to theoretically stop Janet from getting kidnapped. But yeah, we left them in peril. They tend to do cliffhanger endings of each episode. So the cliffhanger is the plane's gonna crash.
Yes.
And since they're already out of a loop, they'll just die, and there won't be anybody to push a button to like restart.
Yeah, and you could argue that that's really all that the episode is the preparation to go back in time. I mean, they obviously the whole thing with Bryson is setting something up that's going to pay off later.
Right.
And Furley rolling out whatever this Ross situation is just another one where Archie finds out about Ross now after she told the story to Zhang about what her story with Ross was. And the thing we didn't know is that Ross was Archie's mentor.
Right.
So
I would have assumed it would have been Shiv, right? Because didn't Shiv bring her in, I think?
Yeah, Shiv did bring her in.
So, but he brought her in, but it wasn't her mentor. Okay.
Yeah.
But you're right. It laid some track for more plot elements to come. And, and I'm enjoying the aw shucks scientist Samson. He seems always a little out of his element, but he's like, I'm doing the best I can.
Yes.
So I like it. He's become a good member of the team, so that's cool.
Yes.
But yeah, otherwise, I'm looking forward to episode 4. I assume they don't all die in a plane crash, or maybe they do and they get time looped out, but who knows? I would say no. We'll be back talking about episode 4 next time. Thank you so much, Paul. Appreciate it, good sir.
No problem.
And we'll talk to everybody then. Bye.
Bye.